Oh, hey, how you doing? Welcome to my channel. My name is Piper, and I usually do sewing content on this platform, and we are going to make a corset. It is going to be a process, but we are going to make a corset with this material. I want to try to get it done in about 4 days. It's a corset, so the things that you're going to need: your pretty material. You're going to need some type of fashion fabric material that's kind of slick for the inside. That's part that's going to touch your skin. You're also going to need boning, and this is the boning I have. I just got it off of Amazon. But I believe this is like a 1/2 inch boning. You put this in between all of your stitches, I guess. So I have a really big roll of this. You're also going to need a pattern. Where'd my pattern go? Okay, so you're also going to need your pattern. I've got mine right here. This is one that I've actually changed a little bit from one that I got for free on the, can't remember where, the website. I'll come up with it eventually. But it was a free pattern, and the corset was really long. It like went down to your hips. And this one, I actually cut it down so that it's more right at just past your belly button, roughly. Yeah, so this is the pattern I'm going to use. There's quite a few pieces that have to be put together. So I'm going to show you a couple I've made so you can trust me in me showing you how to do this, and then we'll get started. This was the very first corset I ever made. I almost forgot to tell you, you're going to need ribbon too. And this is the back with the ribbon. You're going to either have to make your own eyelets or like use your sewing machine if it has the function to make like a circle that you can punch a hole out of. This is the very first one I made. That is with the original pattern. I cut the pattern down. This is the original one, so when you're wearing it, it like sits just right at your hip bone basically. So yeah, that's the first one I made. And then I got fancy and wanted to try a shiny satin material. So I did this one. And then there's the black ribbon on the back. I've made 3. So the last one I made is this one with this fun colored ribbon in the back. They're super fun. I can't even believe I've made this many corsets. They're very addicting to make. They're pretty self-explanatory, but it's just a lot of pieces to put together and to line up. So yeah, I also want to mention the way that I do my corsets most of the time is once I kind of get the boning and everything in place and everything's flipped the correct way, good sides are up, whatever, I always end up just doing a top stitch at the bottom. I never did the sew it almost all the way across and flip it, because flipping that with boning to me just seems very difficult, and I don't know, I just thought that stitching the bottom is pretty easy and you're not going to really notice it. So you're going to notice that on all of mine I do this. So this one has it too. And then this was my very first one I did that I just put, I made my own bias tape for the bottom, but I still top stitched it. So there you have it. Do you trust me enough to show you how to make one? I hope so. Stick around to watch that process. All right, so I've got all my pieces here, and I was super organized when I was remaking this pattern. So hopefully I can get this back pretty easy here. I marked everything up, and I also created it to where there's not quite as many pieces to put together. So it's something like that. Nope. Yeah, that's right. So what we've got here to understand the pieces, we've got the front here. I made it so you could either cut it on fold or you could just cut around it. But this is the front, these are the sides. These curves are for your bust area. This kind of curves around your, under your armpits. And then these last pieces are where you're gonna end up actually putting your eyelets. But you're gonna wanna cut 2 of everything. You're gonna want to cut your pretty pattern first, cut your fashion fabric next, and when you put the pieces together, you're going to want to put all of one fabric together and then your second fabric all together, and then you're going to end up piecing them all together. It's a process, but you're going to do 2 separate pieces and then kind of put those pieces together, and then that's where it gets kind of fun and exciting. So we're going to start cutting these. Okay, so I moved all of my pattern pieces to the other table so that I have full range here on my cutting mat. And I'm going to suggest you have a rotary cutter of some sort. It will help cutting. It will make it a lot easier. Okie dokie. So now I've got this all laid out. I already ironed my material. So you're going to want to make sure to iron everything flat so you get exact measurements. I like to go from the middle out. In this case, I'm going to try to fit as many of my pieces on this section of material as possible and cut them all out, and then I'll do the other sides. Okay, so this is the middle, and then all the pieces to the left. And I'm going to just cut around the pieces so I don't have to fold anything. I think that's how I want to do it. Changed my mind. I'm going to take these off, fold this material in half, and then I'll cut my cutting time in half. Okay, so I folded my middle pattern in half because I made it so I could do it cut on fold. Since this material is split in half here, I've got the pretty sides up and I've got pretty sides down because it's folded. So I'm going to put weights on these so that they don't move around. You don't want the pattern shifting. All I'm going to do is cut around all of these, and then I'm going to actually have both sides cut. And because I was going to the right, I did my right pattern pieces, and then the left ones will come when I cut everything. I'm going to just cut right along here quick to get rid of this extra material that I'm not going to be using. Here we go. So as you can see, I'll show you right here, I've got the pretty and the pretty down, pretty up, pretty down. So everything will cut out really quick here. Goodness, Mark. Cool, middle piece is cut. Okay, so now I've got those pieces cut. You can take this. We've got the front piece, and what I like to do to stay organized is keep the pattern piece with the piece I cut. So that's the front. This is the right. This is the right, and then the other one's the left. So I'm gonna grab the left pattern piece and keep it with this one. Okay. I like to have it all laid out. With these. Staying organized makes it way easier. Sounds good. Keep that one together. This one's here. I just cut your cutting time in half. Doing that, literally. It makes it so much quicker. Okay, so now I have all my front pieces done. You can either go and sew this now so you have all your pieces together and you can't get them messed up, or you can go ahead and repeat that whole process again with your material that's going to be on the inside of the corset. You do the exact same steps. For me personally, I think I'm going to go ahead and start sewing these together, and then I'll come back and cut again. When I just do cuts all at once, it kind of gets a little boring. So by giving me some time to sew a little bit, then I can come back and cut again, and it makes it not so ominous and long to get all the pieces cut. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to want to do, I think it's 1/4 of an inch. I believe it's like 1/4 of an inch that you're going to want to follow here for your seam allowance, and you're going to want to leave enough room basically that when it's sewn you'll have something to fold out like this and iron down, and it cleans everything up for when you put the pieces together. It'll make a lot more sense. You're leaving enough width also that you'll catch this seam, or this edge I should say, when you're sewing. You're gonna put boning in here, so if you can sew right along that edge and this edge, you'll have a perfect spot for your boning to lay in. It'll make it look a lot better. I'm just gonna do some basic clipping of the edges here so that things match up, and then I can just go to my sewing machine, do the stitch real quick, and then I'll have to iron in between all of these, but I'm gonna do it later in the process. I'm gonna get things sewn together, and then I'll turn my iron on and iron everything down flat. So okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stitch that, and I'm gonna continue the process with all of these, and just make sure you're putting the correct pieces together. I've got my little helper this morning. Say hi, Mac. Mac, say hi. Say hi to everyone. Yes. You happy boy. I really like corsets because you can kind of be messy for a hot minute. When I say messy, it doesn't really matter the color thread you have on this stitch because it's gonna be hidden. So you really just need whatever thread is in your machine to sew it. So you don't have to like change your threads a bunch, which is awesome. And you also don't have to like serge anything. I have never serged anything on my corsets, and I haven't had any problem by doing that. When you want to be lazy, you kind of can be with the corset. All right, so I like to line up my foot, particularly right up on the edge of this material, to give myself enough room for that seam allowance that I need. So I just barely show the material on the other side, and it's usually enough for me. And that's about 1/4 of an inch, I believe. Okay, and now all you gotta do is just follow the edge and sew it down. Just make sure your edges are matching up and you'll be good. Perfect, one done, lots more to go. So now I just wanna show you. Okay, so this is one piece, and we made that seam allowance here, it's edge allowance, whatever, and you can fold it open and iron it flat. And that is good for corsets because you don't want a bunch of thickness going on behind your garment or whatever, or inside of it. When you get this flattened out and then you do stitches later on where the boning goes, it's just gonna look super duper clean. And you usually want to do this with most all sewing projects. For clothing specifically, you want to have a pretty edge opened up that you can just iron down. So that's why we did that. And I will then be ironing all of this down so it's nice and pretty. There are some curves in this pattern that you just got to take a little bit of time to make sure your curves match up, because since I kind of fixed this pattern, they don't match up perfectly, and that's okay. But you just want to make sure you stick with those curves, because that's what a corset does. I mean, it pulls in on your body and follows your curves, so you just got to do that on the material and it will be just perfect. That didn't even take that much work to really gather those together, and that's literally it. That was the first hard curve that I had. That was not bad at all. Believe it or not, I've already got the right side of this done. Now I gotta do is add the left side, because I redid this pattern. I took out quite a few sections from the original, so now instead of like 6 on one side, there's only like 3, 4 if you count the middle. So it comes together a lot quicker this way. So now I'm just gonna finish the other side. This is the last piece. Okay, so now I've got the whole front pieces done. Now what you need to go do is iron them. Once all of these pieces are flattened out, you need to do the exact same thing over again with the internal fabric, and then we can move on. It's time to iron. So the front side, I don't want to worry about it right now. I want to worry about these pieces that I just sewed together. I want to flatten all of these down. That's what we're going to do now. I like to kind of pull on the material and then, ooh, that was hot on my leg. I just burned myself, people. Okay, I like to kind of pull and push with the iron. I don't know why that was so hot. That got on my thigh pretty good. Ouchie. Anyway, this is what we're looking for. You want to flatten those bits out, and then we'll flip it and do the front. It was really hot on my leg. I don't want to do that again. Something that also can help, because I'm noticing it here on this one, is pulling the material the way it wants to lay, I guess. Kind of like this. And then flip it back over. And then kind of get your pieces pulled apart like that. And it's already laying better doing that. And yeah, that's basically it. And then the bottom, since it has a hip dip in there, I have to pull it out and do it that way as well. I kind of pull it, follow the curve, and then I release it a little bit, and then there. And this part was flat, so that's easy. I absolutely love my Laura Star. It's a game changer. If you've ever wanted an iron that was going to flatten your pieces like in seconds, that was good quality, that never failed you basically, look at the Laura Star. I'm actually going to link it in the description, so if you want to check it out, you can find it there. It'll be the exact one that I have right here. This is definitely worth it. Okay, I got all those back pieces flattened, so now I'm just gonna go on the front and do the same. This cleans it up. Here's a curve. Pull against the curve. It's so satisfying. It's all ironed. The front piece is done. Rinse and repeat, and then we can continue putting this together. Just want to take a moment to show you how good those look. And now everything's flat, We're not gonna have any bunching or thickness anywhere. So good. So I kind of have a hack I want to share when doing corsets if you're kind of in a rush or you're lazy. But it can be a great thing at the same time. When you cut your fabric that's gonna go on the inside here, you're not going to see it, okay? This is just going to be a barrier between these rough edges and I guess you can call that ugliness. It's going to make it pretty by putting this in there and hiding everything. Hear me out. So I told you to cut all your pieces, repeat everything we just did with this material and sew it and then put those pieces together. Yes, that is the way you're supposed to do it. But cut a little bit bigger than what you just sewn together. Make sure you consider the curves, because there are curves and dips or whatever. And I'm talking about like down here toward where your hips are. Just cut the shape out. Lay this down on that material. Lay it on there how you're gonna have it before it's flipped right sides out, basically. Cut it to this shape. Sew the edges. Connect them all together. Flip them right sides out so that you'll have this side showing. You'll have a clean edge on the edge here. And then the black will be on this side. And then create your channels. And the channels would go down the front of all these seams. By doing that, it saves you a lot of time of sewing the sewing machine to put all these sections together, but it also makes a clean back. So when you go to sew your channels, everything is gonna line up and it's gonna look perfect on the back end. Versus if for some reason you do it the harder way and redo all of the sections with this and line it up in here, a lot of the time they don't line up just perfectly like you hope they would. So then when you go to put your channels in, lines cross, all the above. So when you do this, you're eliminating that and you're only making stitches where those seams are. I hope this is making sense. It makes the inside look better too, is what I'm getting down to. And yeah, it's kind of a workaround, but I've seen my work look better on the inside as well as the outside by doing that. You just have to consider everything curve-wise so that you have enough give in your material. And it honestly works pretty well. So if you're wanting to save time, try that out. I really actually kind of like it. Yeah, and then so once you've kind of done that, then you just make all your stitches here, add your boning, fold the bottom in, do your top stitch, and then you're almost done. Then all you have to do is the eyelets and the ribbon. So depends how much time you're willing to take and if you're a perfectionist or not, whether you do that or not. But I have noticed the inside's looking almost as good as the outside by doing that. So food for thought.